grace means we don't get what we deserve. Because all the blessings and the good things that we have, we didn't deserve them. We didn't work hard enough for them. We didn't deserve them. And so how do we think about grace and God? In my view, I think of it two ways. One is in this understanding of truth. What is Veritas? How do we find it? And as we pursue truth, it's fleeting. I don't think it's relative. I think it's hard to find. And I think the tools of our education, the scientific process, the logics process, help us to chip at a vision of it. And the more we press against it, and from Romans, test and discern, which means to ask questions. And there's never a question that's too tough for truth and God. And so I think about it in that way. As we pursue our education and we ask tough questions, we're pursuing this idea of truth. We don't deserve to find it. But sometimes we get unmerited favor. We get grace. And the other way in which I think about it is when I think about God as one who gives grace and one who gives mercy. And particularly as we're in the season of both, Passover and Easter, we're reminded of Passover, which is unmerited favor. And we're reminded of the sacrifice of Christ in the Judeo-Christian tradition of sacrificing himself, and we didn't deserve it. But the other part of it is that we can really push back when times are hard. It doesn't mean, believing in God doesn't mean that everything's going to go your way. But it does give you that sense of hope that Dean Karana talked about. You talked about looking behind you and being able to find hope. And as I look behind me and see all that God has brought me through, all of the unmerited favor, all the ways in which things could have gone bad, and many times they did, but to trust and believe that I'm still going to be okay, because my faith isn't in things. It isn't in an education. I used to be embarrassed to say I went to Ohio State. When I started teaching at Duke and came here, it was like, oh, you went to Ohio State. And then suddenly it was like, no, I went to Ohio State. And this idea of how we make sense of failure, how we make sense of when things don't go our way. How do we deal with discouragement? How do we find faith and hope to move forward? And in my view, we can't trust the things of this world because they will fail us. So who then do we trust? And that's where we intersect with truth and the pursuit of truth. And that's why I believe in God, not because someone told me to. It's from testing and discernment, trying it out, trying to understand. There are no questions that are too difficult to ask. If I can't ask this question, or if I have to believe this without interrogating it, what am I doing? To be a woman of faith means that I get to ask the tough questions and have faith that I'll get the answers, or I won't, or I will one day. But it's unmerited favor, and it's really a trust around how we deal with failure, how we deal with disappointment, and what we're willing to lean in on. And I don't think anything in this world, from my view, is fail-safe for leaning in on. But modeling, grace for myself, forgiving myself, for disappointing myself, forgiving others, being gracious in conversation with people who disagree with me, who staunchly disagree with me, that I really would rather not know their point of view, But grace makes me want to ask it and to know more and to love who they are, even though I disagree with them, or that's where it comes from.